today I'll be Maarten Scherion, and I'll be asking you the question, did you know? So what is did you know? So did you know is a concept, a social media concept that we started with VI Technologies, the company that I work for. We are already posting did you knows from May 2017 on our social media. It's the small one-slider post where you can actually learn something new about LabVIEW, the editor, everything around the ecosystem. And today I'll be bringing those to you guys and asking you the question, did you know? So I already attended GDevCon 3 and 4, and in GDevCon 4 I presented LabVIEW, the Python node in LabVIEW, so people might already know me from that. And as a did you know also, I want to present one, Our Giants Are Female, which is Darcy Proper. She's an American mastering engineer, so she's in sound engineering, also one of my hobbies actually, so I'm also sound engineer in my spare time that I have left next to LabVIEW programming. She's a sound mastering engineer. She's an actual Grammy winner. She won a Grammy for the best surround sound album made that year. And she actually moved to Belgium to meet up with her new boyfriend, went to the Netherlands. That's also why I feel a little bit of connected there. And she went to work in the Whistle Studios, which is a very famous studio for a lot of great artists, made some great albums there. So to get things off, I think this is the first did you know that I actually presented in my last presentation back in Glasgow. So this is the post that we actually do on our social media. This was about get and set control values by index nodes. But this is just one to get us a little bit started. This is the one I presented last time, and today I'll be doing a lot of those more to bring to you guys. So yeah, first topic, let's say I made a few general topics, which I will do the did you knows around. First one to start off with are a few DECMX ones, but I think this one is actually a bit more general than DECMX, but at least it applies a lot to DECMX, which is the examples. I really like the LabVIEW examples. It has a lot of rich knowledge where yeah, sometimes I don't know what to start off with. It helps you with your first time to an actual measurement, but it also gives you a lot of good examples into configuration. And mainly for DECMX, it helped me with some sound and vibration analysis cards that I had to synchronize. There's actually a very good example about that, how to synchronize those together. So it actually brings a lot of knowledge that I maybe didn't anticipate there. I always thought it was for beginners only, let's say, but it actually gave me a lot of good knowledge. Second one, property node filter, staying in the DECMX realm. I actually learned about this a little bit later. I started programming, was looking at the property nodes, and I thought like, hey, why are they so empty? Why am I missing something? But apparently there's an option for it to actually filter the property nodes according to your hardware that you configured in your DECMX or NIMAX. So if you haven't got any devices there, I think it will show all, or it will filter all, and it will show nothing. But I think you can also set it to show, let's say, only the property nodes that are explicit for the hardware you configured. So if you put in some simulation hardware, you can actually say like, hey, can you filter, or can you only show the attributes that are relevant for my piece of hardware? Something I learned, something that could be interesting for you if you're programming without your hardware at least. The third one about the DECMX is the event-based options that are there, which is also one that most people don't know about. So there's DECMX can actually work with the read and the write nodes that most of you probably know and see in the first examples. But DECMX also has the option to work with events. So you can do an event registration on a DECMX wire, let's say, like that task wire, and you can actually get a few events done there. So mainly the event for every n samples acquired into the buffer. So for a read node, you don't have to wait your whole second or maybe even longer that you actually want your acquisition to acquire. You can actually wait for that with an event. So if somebody presses the stop or wants to do something in between with your event structure and you want to catch that more faster or earlier, this is a good option actually to not have to wait there and pull the actual data. So yeah, this one will come up a few times, so I want to also get this a little bit interactive. So I just shown 3. Who of you did know all of them already? Show of hands, please. Oh, that's already not that much. So we're going in the right direction. Everybody's learning something today. So that's the intention of my presentation. I will show that slide a lot more, get a little bit of interaction going, get a little bit more topics in on, hopefully showing you some new stuff. So LabVIEW INI keys. So next to your LabVIEW executable, there is a LabVIEW.ini file, and you can put in some very awesome keys. It will also auto-populate from some options that you actually fill in the LabVIEW options dialog. So if you know that one, some might overlap, so I will show them under the INI key options, but also they will show up in some of the options menu. Yeah, so colors, yeah, fancy. So I don't know if everybody knew, but there's a lot of options to put in the INI keys to color your LabVIEW environment. I wouldn't do this, let's be honest. But at least it shows a nice rainbow, right? We're in Brighton, everybody loves the rainbows everywhere. So what's actually nice about this is you can actually make some things actually match your layout of your user interface if you really want to color it a little bit more light than this, I hope. But I think what is really nice is, for example, the blinking foreground and background, but mainly also the last one, which is the user items. So you can actually fill that user items dialog up with your custom color. So if you made a color scheme for your application and you want all your users to use the same color scheme for their controls, their indicators, their application user interface, you can actually fill that one through the INI keys or to the LabVIEW Tools options menu. The next one is actually an INI key that you can add to your INI, which is not in the options menu, which is enable secret pop-ups. These ones are getting a little bit more into the background. But they actually give you options if you're customizing your controls, and I already heard a little discussion yesterday in the LabVIEW huddle that we had afternoon, that people like to customize more of their controls in the customization options. Now, this is one for you. You can actually do a lot of things here which are normally not there. All the options that you now see on the left side, those are usually not there, which is actually gives you the option to insert, let's say, graphics or decorations as decals, which you can actually color, scale together with your control, make them move together with your control. So you have a little bit more control over these kinds of options in your customization dialog. So this is, of course, a bit of an ugly example, let's say, where I put this a gray box in it. But you can imagine that for glyphs or maybe for icons that you want to use in your Booleans, in your controls, that this could really very well be a good option. Also works with all kinds of different controls, right? So I show a Boolean button here, but this could also work for clusters, arrays, whatever. So this is a nice one to remember. Yeah, exactly. That's also what my colleague said, actually. So I put some credits there for Stefan Kals, one of my colleagues. It has the tendency when you start enabling that option to crash in the customization dialog. So if you want to keep your work, save it properly. The next one, actually already a bit introduced by James Powell, is the brown property nodes. So I may have seen them in James Powell's presentation when he was going for the events of the Desktop Execution Trace Toolkit. So to enable those, to actually see those in your editor, you have to enable the super secret private special stuff. INI key, you can set it to true. And it enables all the brown property nodes in the property node when you do, let's say, VI server properties. This is almost the same as the blue ones, which you might know from the scripting. So you can actually click enable scripting in the tools menu, but this option is not there. This option is you're only able to find if you actually added it in the LabVIEW INI key. Exactly, same thing goes here. Everything I show is with the other warning. So everything can crash your LabVIEW. That's definitely true. It's backend for a reason, right? So there are also some other INI keys. So one of them actually I found while editing this presentation, which is actually a new feature of LabVIEW 2025 Q3, which is the log unwired errors, which is actually also an option in the tools dialog, which I thought was really nice. So before you only had the option to, let's say, show the automatic error dialog, and it just pops into your face 300 times when you have the same error, and you're like, go away. And now there's actually an option to just log those errors directly to files. So if you later want to see, like, oh, what did I miss? What did my application maybe miss? Then that would be that's a cool option. There are a few more there. So use local decimal points. I think everybody knows the option. Read-only logs we use a lot for our development with Subversion. So the read-only option is matched with our Subversion client. And we can actually know when another colleague is working on the same code, and the VI also gets locked. That's for editing, so that you know that, hey, this one is not something I'm supposed to edit or busy with.
Can you explain the ONS?
Yeah, so I have to admit that one, I've seen it, so I also put in the link below. If you want to know more about these, check the LabVIEW wiki, because I actually saw that one, and I actually found it interesting myself, because I haven't used it, honestly, for myself. I've used the allow multiple instances, so I will do that one first a little bit. So that's one actually where you can put it into your executable. So these are 2 INI keys which you can actually put next to your executable when you build your application. And there is also an INI file, of course, and that one, if you set it to allow multiple instances, you can actually run your executable more than 1 time. So you can run your same executable twice on the same PC, else you cannot do that. So, and next to that one is indeed the run as a service, which is, let's say, kind of the same Boolean. It also gives you the option to run LabVIEW without showing it in the taskbar. Let's say it won't give you an icon, and it will hide some, let's say, the obvious LabVIEW stuff from you. How it actually works, yeah, I have to admit, Matthias, I don't know. I haven't tried it on my own, but I thought it was actually a nice one to show here, to maybe for you guys to check it out. There's also some Easter eggs I found also on the LabVIEW wiki, actually. So there are some things that highlight execution pride, which actually makes the highlight execution probes show all kinds of rainbow colors. Or the I can believe it's not butter makes, I think, everything that is, let's say, LabVIEW yellow more buttery yellow, which just gives your whole editor something the same as the colors one I just showed. So again, a raise of hands. Who knew every one of those? Ah, so yeah, people are learning. That's nice, that's nice. Okay, so there are a few tools here. So I also wanted to show out some things around the editor, things that you can use for debugging, for testing your code, for showing performance of your code. And actually, some people already beat me to it today, so you will see some repeatness here. But one of the things that I personally use a lot is the profile performance and memory tool, which is default in LabVIEW. And it can actually show your VI execution timing and some memory behavior. I must say I used most of the timing, so you can actually get a screen like this. It shows all your VIs on the left side, and it shows how much time that the VI actually needed to execute during that run of your VI. So it can also show you if, let's say, one VI took most of the time of your application run, and you didn't expect that VI to take actually a long time. You can see that fairly easy here. But also the number of runs. So I also encountered that I called a VI a few thousand times in a VI, which only, let's say, run for a few seconds. And then you know, like, hey, maybe I should check that VI out. Maybe check if its performance is okay. Maybe check if it takes a lot of time and why it executes so much. So this is a very useful tool that I use for my for debugging and checking the performance of my LabVIEW code. Then the next one, this is one that James Powell beat me to. So the desktop execution trace toolkit, you've seen it this morning, where you can actually fill in some custom events, but to be a bit more generic, you can actually select your application and see all kinds of, yeah, let's say, available trace events that you can select and check out. So one that I actually use most with the desktop execution trace toolkit is the reference leaks. So it also shows you if you start your application and stop your application, if at the end it sees like, hey, you left some references open and you didn't close them properly in your application. So that's actually the yellow lines. I think some might show up. And also if you didn't do the error handling properly. So the same goes for the unhandled errors, let's say. If some errors pop up and you didn't handle them, they're just empty wires. They will also show up here in this view of the desktop execution trace toolkit, where you can actually see like, hey, what is happening? I didn't expect that error, or didn't expect it to happen. Maybe I should look back at my code and see what is happening there. And memory allocation, I won't actually go into that one because James Powell showed it a lot this morning. The next tool that I use actually a lot with my colleagues is the bookmark manager. I don't know if everybody knows about that one. So if you put in a free label, or anywhere else in the text labels, a hashtag with, let's say, to do behind it, it will show up in the bookmark manager. So in view, there is bookmark manager. It shows up this view, and it will show you, hey, there I need to do something. So maybe for my colleagues, I can write, hey, implement here the code for this and this and that. So in the end of the project, I look back at the bookmark manager and actually see like, hey, we forgot to implement this method maybe, and it's now just doing default. Maybe we should do something about that. So that's a nice way of looking back at that, and I is also using that for the examples where you should implement some code needed. One more that I heard Wiebe about this morning actually is the event viewer. So for user events, you can actually right-click your event structure and show the event viewer. I have to admit, I don't think you should use it in very big applications because it will probably explode the minute you open it. But let's say in small applications or in small testers, it can really help you to see like, hey, is my VI running? It gives you a list of all the event structures available in your application, and it can show you actually your event queue. So if you, for example, have events building up in your event queue and you're not handling them fast enough, this is actually a nice tool to show you that. Yeah, I just heard it also works in executables. So that's really nice. So again, show of hands. Who knew every one of those? Okay, these ones are more hands. I expected that, but that's good. So I also had to build in a few fun ones. So did you know you can crash LabVIEW? I know almost everybody probably knows a way to crash LabVIEW, right? But I lately found two, one of which I don't actually know if it's a known one. But if you customize a control, I once tried to add a decoration like I showed you before. And I tried to add a line, so a fuse design line. And when you drag the line, it does this. It just says fatal error, crashes away. Goodbye, LabVIEW. So I thought that was a fun one. Maybe if you didn't know, don't do it. The next one is actually I got from the LabVIEW 2025 Q3 Discord server, which is if you click an error wire which is broken, and not the normal broken wires, but a bit thicker broken wires, if you right-click that one, and you will just see it in the picture, it will crash your whole LabVIEW 2025 Q3 version. So that one. And it's gone. So just be careful if you're using that, but it's a development time, right? So maybe it's not that bad, but it's good to know, it's good to know. So a few LabVIEW crashes can always happen, right? Okay, so I still want to do this. Show of hands, who knew these? There's probably nobody. Okay, cool. Let's go back to it. So a few more in just the normal LabVIEW editor, and I think this one everybody should know. QuickDrop, right? We all know QuickDrop, we all love QuickDrop, but just for the few people who maybe didn't know yet, if you hit Control Space, you get QuickDrop, one of the, I think, most used tools in LabVIEW development, just to quickly get stuff onto your diagram. But also be very known about the control keys that you can use afterwards, right? So I put them in the right top already. Mainly the Control F is my personal favorite. For every method that I make, every VI that I make, I just Control F the front panel and the block diagram. It arranges all your controls to how you put the controls on the connector pane. You don't have to do anything about the front panel anymore for everything that's not user interface related. So this is one of my personal favorites. I just wanted to show it to you guys. Yeah, did you know LabVIEW can zoom, right? We all love it, but we also all want to know how to disable it. So that's what I put up here. So up on the right, there's actually two LabVIEW ini keys again. So there's actually two options there. You can actually completely disable zoom if you want to, but there's also a nice option there that if you, I think for the people who use a lot of control scrolling for going through your case structures, you can actually disable the functionality there that if you do Control Shift, you get the zoom functionality, and if you do not do the shift, just a normal control, you can actually do your regular control scrolls again through your cases and that kind of stuff. So if you do not want to fully throw it out of the window, maybe this is a good option for you. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I think, I don't know if I put it there, I think Control O also always returns you back to zoom 0, right? Or zoom 100%, let's say. So that's good to know. This is one actually I put the credits there for Wiebe. I saw at this presentation in Glasgow, and actually one of the things that is also very much in the background of LabVIEW, but maybe for some people fun to know. It's actually the heat peak, which is let's say a background view of what is actually happening behind your .vi file. Also, again, use this with very much caution, but because it's a viewer, it cannot do much wrong. But I found it at least a little bit entertaining and also useful to know how my VI is actually built up. What is actually a VI file? What makes up my block diagram and my front panel? And what kind of information is there that I can actually manipulate. So there's one thing which I know that took advantage of this to manipulate something on the user interface that I found very useful, but that's in the next slide somewhere, so I will show it then. But this is yeah, so this is actually something, I don't know where it went, but I wanted to make a nice video again of this one in 2025 Q3. I couldn't get it to pop up.
Control D is now bring up the debug window.
Yeah?
So Control Shift D is now distribute.
Oh, okay.
Control Shift D.
Yeah, so
Overrides that. So I don't know what it is. Talk to R&D back there.
yeah, so it is, I did Control Shift and tried almost the keyboard. I couldn't get it to pop up. So it's probably something, but I think in 2021 and backwards somewhere it still works in this configuration, but I couldn't find a new one, so I will talk to the guys and get it back to you. But it's a fun tool if you want to look at to the deep dive. This is actually one of my favorites that we're already posting. So I think we as VI Technologies, we're posting these regularly on our social media. And actually, I think we have now about 60, 70 active ones that we're posting, and we're also rotating a little bit on our social medias. This is actually one of my favorites for people who didn't know yet. Yeah, everybody builds a weight like that. You can also build a weight with stall data flow Vim, since Vims are in LabVIEW, which is also very cool functionality. I think you already saw also some Vims in James Powell's presentation. So if you don't know about Vims, definitely check that out. A very cool functionality since LabVIEW 2020, if I'm correct. So who did know everything about these editor things? Let's get some hands up. Yeah, I think the heap peak blocked a lot of people out. Then there are a few front panel things that I think a lot of people will like after the discussion yesterday with NI folks about what's priority. I heard a lot of people coming about the user interface stuff. So for people who didn't know, you can customize your Boolean buttons, of course, but the classic buttons have actually four button states, so the on-off and I think the pressed and the not pressed. But the hover functions actually got added to the Fuse design Boolean buttons. So if you want to customize also the hover over behavior and the press behavior individually, you can actually individually configure all 6 options of your Boolean button with different colors, styles, decoration, glyphs, whatever you want. Also just in the normal customization of your Boolean. So this doesn't require the special stuff. This is just normal behavior of LabVIEW. Then something that I also learned from GDevCon, I don't know who it was anymore, but mainly the grouping and the locking can also help you with building your user interfaces, mainly when scaling. So if you're building scalable user interfaces and you want to lock some parts of your front panel to a corner or such, you can place a decoration in the corner and group some things together with the decoration you put in the corner to actually make it scale a little bit nicer, maybe lock it into the right side or the other side of the VI. And yeah, so you can actually make those decorations invisible, right? But I didn't make them invisible because it wouldn't show today. So that's something that works very, very well for us. Also, if you do something special with your background on some layers, you can lock those in the background so that you don't, if you select, let's say, all your controls, you don't move everything from your VI to left and right, bottom and top. So that's also a nice functionality that we use a lot for our user interface development. So this is also one that I got from my colleague Stefan Kals, who does actually a lot of user interface development in our company. So if you have some questions about that, go ask him. But what we actually do is you can actually use the decorations from LabVIEW to customize your control. And that's actually very easy functionality by using the copy to clipboard and the paste from clipboard. But what most people don't know is that you can actually customize Boolean buttons to actually become arrows. So if you click it, it goes one way. If you click it again, it goes the other way, for example. But also for example, the silver has more rounded, I think, blocks, let's say, right? So you have the flat block, which has straight edges, and you have, like, say, more rounded edges. So if you like your buttons to be more rounded or less rounded, you can actually copy in whatever Boolean with decorations that you like. They have the most, let's say, rounded edges that you like, or other decorations to just paste it in from the clipboard and use that as your new Boolean button. Because all decorations that you pasted into your control are also colorable. So they just keep all the LabVIEW properties, opposed to if you paste in a picture, right? So we can also paste in a PNG picture, but then you cannot color it anymore with all the LabVIEW tools. All the decorations just work with coloring that LabVIEW does automatically, let's say. So all the, just your whole color palette you can use on the decorations. So that's nice for customizing your buttons. So this is actually one of the last ones. So this is actually the pain relief tool, one of the only ones where I want to say promote an external tool. But the pain relief is actually the only one which can set the size of a splitter bar to 0. And remember when I said you have to go into your VR in the background to actually do this. This is one of those properties which is not exposed in the normal LabVIEW editor. If you set the size to 0, it says I cannot do that because the splitter actually disappears, so you can also not control it, color it, or do anything with it. But with pain relief, you actually still can because it still sees the splitter is there, but you can actually set its size to 0, which actually makes up for nice UI properties if you actually use kind of the same framework that Matthias is using. If you start stacking those splitters, the horizontals and the vertical ones, it doesn't actually grow, let's say, the edges of your splitters because you can actually make it edgeless. So this is a very nice tool for that because we also do that kind of the same way you do. So that was cool to see and also cool to show you guys that that's an option actually for developing your user interfaces. So I think this is actually the end of my presentation up to now, but still a raise of hands. Who did know the last ones about user interfaces? Who knew all of them? A good few of hands. So yeah, I think this is actually it. I want to thank you for listening to me, and I hope you all learned something today. Thank you. There is some room for questions, but I have to admit, I don't know everything. At least not about all these topics, let's say.
Do you know the hoovering of the system buttons that used to stop working randomly in 64-bit LabVIEW?
No, I didn't know, but for somebody who wants to know, I heard that hovering over a button sometimes doesn't work in LabVIEW 64-bit. Is that correct, if you heard that? Okay. Yeah, so I haven't had that problem yet, I have to admit, and we're also using 64-bit LabVIEW nowadays, so maybe some specific version, also specific versions there. I think there was a question there in the background.
Yes. Not a question, but I'll fill in a missing detail.
Okay.
Control-Shift-D was replaced with Control-Shift-:
Which?
Colon, the stack dots.
Ah, okay, yeah, okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's Control-Shift::H to get heat peak now.
To get heat peak now, okay. Yeah, that's good to know, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thanks. Any other questions? Then I'll have to give it over to Chris, I think, if the mic is back.